Critique: Ukraine, a war-torn nation, continues to provide aid to African countries. It is perplexing to see countries like Malawi and Zambia, among the latest in Africa, to continue accepting food aid from Ukraine, a nation that has been engulfed in a devastating war with Russia for the past 4 years. It is true that these countries face wreckage of flooding, but where is the unity of Africa in time of such disaster? Western media seems intent on boosting Ukraine's image by highlighting its capacity to send aid to Africa, even as it struggles with its own crises. However, it is deeply troubling that some African nations show little concern for their dignity by accepting aid from any country, regardless of the circumstances. During the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, which coincided with the intensification of the Russia-Ukraine war, many African countries still accepted any type of food and vaccines from foreign nations, including Ukraine. This was despite Ukraine being severely strained by its conflict with Russia. Nigeria, often regarded as the most populous and wealthiest African country by GDP, exemplified this dependency by accepting even expired vaccines, sparking protests from citizens who decried their leaders' actions that demonstrate a lack of sense of dignity and shame. The situation raises critical questions. How can Ukraine, a country fighting for its survival against one of the world's most powerful nations, provide food aid to Africa, a continent that possesses over 65% of the world's arable land? How is it possible that a country heavily reliant on aid from the EU and the USA turns around to be feeding African nations? This paradox underscores the failure of African leadership to maintain a sense of dignity and self-reliance. Recently, Russia accused Ukraine of opening a second front in Africa. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova stated, "Unable to defeat Russia on the battlefield, the criminal regime of Volodymyr Zelensky has opened a second front in Africa." This accusation reflects the complex geopolitical dynamics at play, with Africa becoming an arena for global powers to extend their influence. The continent leaders watch helplessly. In this context, it is vital for African leaders and citizens to reflect on their dependency on foreign aid. While it is true that external powers have historically undermined Africa's political and economic independence, it is equally evident that African leaders willingly perpetuate this dependency. In contrast, Morocco recently refused aid from France during a period of crisis, earning praise for maintaining its dignity. Yet in much of sub-Saharan Africa, any form of aid is readily accepted, often with little consideration of its implications. African leaders are known for their corruption, extravagance and wastefulness, and this lack of accountability only deepens the continent's challenges. As long as African nations continue to rely on foreign aid without a sense of shame or self-respect, they cannot expect to be treated with dignity on the global stage. It is imperative for Africans to hold their leaders accountable and demand an end to the acceptance of what many consider poisonous aid. Africa is rich in resources, and these should be harnessed for the benefit of its people, rather than being exploited by foreign interests with the complicity of corrupt politicians. Let us raise awareness of our own shortcomings, which contribute to the disrespect and exploitation of Africa. At Diaspoint, we seek to illuminate both the successes and failures in African governance, fostering a deeper understanding among the diaspora and encouraging active participation in the continent's development. Your voice is crucial in the struggle for a transformed Africa. Join us at Diaspoint to stay informed and engaged and help us share these important discussions within your networks. Diaspoint, where the African diaspora keeps a watchful eye on Africa.